Hello, everyone out there. This is Mary Cheney, CEO, Minorities in Cybersecurity, and we have our Mike Lead Expires session today. And of course, you guys know these are normally just fireside chat style talks. We're talking to the audience that we're targeting, are those that are new in a profession or trying to get in a profession. They're trying to see who's out there, what they're doing, what cool stuff that they're doing. So we have conversations with individuals like yourself and others to just exposure, right? And to give people exposure to all the things that are going on in the field. Um, if you are out there I am monitoring, trying to monitor the chat out there as well as the chat here within our live call. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Again, if you're out there on YouTube, like and subscribe our channel. And that would be awesome if you do that right now and subscribe to and watch our content and all of that good stuff. So today we are on the mic with Anshu. Anshu is going to tell us who she is because this is our first time meeting. So we don't do prep here. If you guys know me, Miss Mary does just goes off the cuff. So we didn't have a prior conversation, but I'm going to allow Anshu to introduce herself before we dive into any questions.
Sure. Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be here. Hi everyone. I'm Anshu Uppal. I work for Adobe. I am part of the technology governance, risk and compliance organization governing the enterprise resilience program for Adobe as a leader for enterprise resilience within the organization. Um, it and so my responsibilities are resilience and risk for Adobe from the availability standpoint of products and processes within the organization.
That's awesome. That sounds good. And so the question that we always ask, that I always ask, that you could probably anticipate because you probably watched the videos and heard me ask before. Tell us your origin story. How did you get into cyber? What led you up to the role that you're in currently?
Absolutely. Um, so I can share, I think my first interest into computer science started when I took some programming languages as part of my high school curriculum. That sparked my interest in computers. And from there, I went to get my computer engineering degree in my undergrads. But then I guess life happened. And in spite of my job placement request that I got, I graduated when there was a recession. So my job placement was redacted. And so then I just got an opportunity in a bank in India to lead their compliance financial SOX audits and just took that up and got myself into compliance. From there, I went to get my master's in finance, thinking, okay, now I like finance. I'm going to do corp finance. But I guess destiny had something else for me. I landed up in Citi doing information security when cybersecurity used to be called information security, leading their data loss prevention program. And that was my foray into cybersecurity.
So you were working for Citi and then Adobe?
So I worked for Citi, then I worked for another organization. It was a fintech out of Seattle called Avalara. From Citi, I went to Avalara. So I guess I consider myself lucky with the Avalara opportunity because I got an opportunity to build a whole resilience program for a fintech ground up. And that took me to Adobe to help mature their existing resilience program.
That's amazing. So and I always tell people to build something from scratch and to build that out from scratch gives you a appreciation for
Absolutely.
all the things that you may have not appreciated before
Absolutely.
because you were with a large organization. So can
Absolutely.
you tell me the difference between working from like a startup and in large corporations?
So yes, I 100% agree. Things are very, very different when you're in a smaller organization and versus a bigger, larger organizations like Citi or Adobe. you really get to get your hands dirty. You learn a lot when you're building something ground up. And I think something that I really enjoy, or I learned to enjoy being at that building that program, was being comfortable with ambiguity. I think before working in bigger organizations, I never got an opportunity to be in a state where things were ambiguous. But being in that smaller organization, building their program, like there was so much ambiguity, and like not even knowing where to start my program, building my program. But I think that experience um, gave me an opportunity to be comfortable with ambiguity. And I think that's a really good skill that I have. And now I tell people that that is something you should get comfortable with in any corporate environment that you go to.
Yes, actually, our conference in March, the theme was "Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable," because as you go through this career, you're not going to know anything as much as somebody that's been in the space for longer. And so being comfortable or being able to sit into your own and say, but I can learn, is something
Absolutely.
that's very, very, very important when we're especially in cybersecurity, because one day it's one thing and the next day is something
100%.
completely different.
100%. It is absolutely the case.
Yeah. So you enjoyed the startup space. You enjoy starting new things and building things. Can you talk to us about, from the aspirers perspective, those that are trying to get into the space, they're just like, you have what I would call our DMA traditional background, computer science background, and so that naturally sent you into cybersecurity. But the governance, what you're doing now, share with us how technical are you, what you're doing now as compared to, do you rely on those technical skills in your day to day?
I would say the know-how and the learning of the technical skills for my domain are very important, even though probably I'm not writing a code or building a software. Yes, but understanding that at a higher level, because in the resilience domain, it's technically you get the 10,000-foot view of the complete organization, both internally and externally, because that is what is expected of or out of your program, the resilience program at an organization, to get that 10,000 view and be able to guide resilience activities accordingly based on priority. So I would say for me, I guess having that technical background was easier, but it's not something which you cannot learn on your own for this kind of role, because you're not coding things, but you have to understand, because you're talking to engineers day in day out. So you have to understand their language. You have to be able to translate your language in their to their level where they understand your ask better. So I think for me, my undergrads was helpful, but it's not something that is required for this role. Those skills can easily be gathered by self-learning as well.
So tell us, all right, so for the new beginners, tell us what a resiliency program is. What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. So I think from the cyber standpoint, like I work very closely with all the business back office business functions as well, understanding what are their processes, what are their key critical processes, and like building recovery strategies for those processes in case of a disruption, and also establishing recovery objectives for those critical functions. And on the technology side, Adobe being a technology organization, whether it's our internal Adobe environment or customer facing technologies, again, understanding the whole infrastructure, the architecture of those technologies, making sure it's documented appropriately by working closely with both product and engineering organizations. And then it is documented to that level that the plan, when it's, if anybody in the team wants to run with it in case of a requirement, can run with it, I think is the key. And to be able to respond for any disruption that the organization face. And from the cyber resilience standpoint, I would say it's like marrying all this together is very important for to get that operational resiliency where you can respond effectively and bring your business operations back up and running in a comfortable, acceptable downtime.
Mhm. So, you mentioned earlier that in the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability, you're on the availability side. So
Yes,
essentially making sure the product works and it stays working.
yes, yes,
So any changes, anything that happens to a particular product, back in the day it was disk,
yes.
now it's on the cloud, but being able to, ensure like today, I'll give you a perfect example out of my life. My Adobe wasn't working. Every time I clicked on my a document, a PDF document, it gave me the old snap and it gave me a whole bunch of code. And I was like, what in the world? And it did that yesterday. I was like, I'm gonna ignore it. I'm gonna ignore it. It's gonna fix itself. Google's gonna fix itself. And then I came back, I rebooted, I came back and it was still doing the same thing. I was like, what's going on? It was just a simple turn off the plugin and turn the plugin back on and then it
Correct,
worked.
correct. Yeah. I mean,
So
it's
so
not
I
that
was
simple
I
on
would
the
have
back
called you
end.
guys.
It's,
I would have waited to talk to you and say, what in the world is going on? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just joking.
no, no, yeah, it happens. I mean, technology sometimes is not our friend.
But no, on the back end of that's basically if it was happening globally, let's say, and if this problem with the Google update caused a problem, this is something that would your team would be working on, right?
Yes. So, I mean, our team assists. There are multiple teams that come into play if ever, God forbid, we have that scale of disruption.
Mhm.
So this is a very cross-functional role within any organization. You are pretty much talking to anybody and everybody in order to ensure that your objective can accurately be aligned with. So you
Mhm.
could be talking to your treasury functions, your finance functions, you could be talking to your product teams, could obviously your engineering organizations as well, because when it comes to cyber resilience, you're understanding your what is, I mean, bigger organizations have cyber insurances, so that's your finance and your treasury. So you have to ensure that everybody's aligned, and then as you document and build your program, you continue testing and exercising with bringing all these teams together and also the senior leadership together so that everybody's aware of their roles and responsibilities. And it's like building that muscle memory by performing those tests and exercises.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to, we have a younger professionals, right, that are out there and they say they're interested, they're intrigued. What are some of the skills that you would say? I know one is communication because you just talked about it, talking to everybody, but list some of those skills that individual that is important for somebody starting out in what you're doing right now, junior level role.
So I would say one, a continuous learning mindset is very important because I cannot be an expert for everything within an organization. So I have to have that continuous learning mindset to be able to use my soft skills to talk to the teams effectively and efficiently. And then bringing along with that continuous learning mindset, it also what's important is that intellectual curiosity to understand, okay, if I'm going to this team to talk, probably I don't know what they do, but having that intellectual curiosity to go to the web or go to your internal intranet to find out what the team does so that you're better prepared for your conversation. And then I would also say, like, bringing that can do attitude and the right mindset is very, very important in this role, because sometimes you do face resistance because you're asking people to do work outside of their BAU activities. So the mindset is very, very important in this role, is all I can say.
Yeah, BAU, business as usual, for those that don't understand that acronym, but understood, understood. So, I mean, let's see, your own personal journey. So you said that you worked for a company in India. right? Are you a immigrant to the U.S. and
Yes.
how okay, and so how did that transition from India to the U.S.? How did that go? What has been some of those challenges?
Um,
Geek like mine. You're tech geek like me, so but still, I'm curious how that
um,
transition went.
I think it was initially a bit challenging because obviously the reasons were not the work environment, but more immigration environment, because of which, like, I left my career, came here, sat at home, went to school, sat at home, and then went back to work. From that
Mhm.
standpoint, I think that was the only challenge. Rest, I feel, I guess, yes, getting that first opportunity was a bit challenging, but what I felt helped me was networking, just
Okay.
pure networking, the ability to talk to people, requesting mentorship. Like, this is my personal experience, which I've shared with many people that I mentor, that don't be shy. Please don't be shy. I literally can kid you not. I went to LinkedIn and sent messages to maybe over 2 to 3,000 folks. Maybe three responded. For me, those three were enough. When I was looking for mentors, this is how I built my mentors when I was looking, and they're still my mentors. So use that to your leverage, and people respond. Yes, like I said, maybe the response rate is 0.01 to 0.02%, but even that 0.01 or 0.20% is enough.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay.
So
That's good.
just
I mean,
go add people in the domain that you think you want to work in, talk to those people, connect with those people, request mentorship. Like I said, the success rate for requesting mentorship would be very low, but you will find people who are willing to help. And this is my personal experience. People help me without knowing me.
yeah. So, I mean, a question. I mean, and I get off on a tangent here because you mentioned earlier you thought you wanted to go to finance, and you mentioned reach out to people in the area that you think you want to go in,
Yes.
right? And so, curious to know those decisions that you came across. Was it that you got into finances, like, nope, that's not what I want to do, that's not it, and or was it, it did cybersecurity, information security just kept calling you back, we wouldn't let you go from the tech
I
space?
think I was looking for a role where, honestly speaking, where I could use both my finance and engineering background. I went, again, this was a networking opportunity, which took me to Citibank for that role. Um, I think the only reason they hired me was because I understood finance and technology both.
Okay.
So I would just say I got lucky to find that and get in there. But again, I spoke to many people, I connected on LinkedIn, look for mentors, seek their guidance. And that is how I decided this is the path forward.
Okay. So are you a people leader or are you individual contributor?
I'm a people leader.
Your people leader. So you have a team.
Yes.
How many folks work for you?
Four, yeah, four-ish. Yep, four.
So how's the transition go for you from it being all about you and your day to day and now being a leader of a team and it being about them?
Absolutely. It is, it's a bit of a change when you become a leader from an IC. And I think I experienced in my previous role at Avalera when I started to build the program and lead and grow the team and lead the program. It was a little bit of a change. I would say I had to learn to unlearn and built my trust and confidence in my team that they can deliver. And I think the skills that really helped me, because I feel everybody brings a very unique perspective. You should give them a listening ear. But then, yes, it is your responsibility as a leader to guide the team to deliver what has to be delivered in terms of the end goal and the deliverables. I think I, as a leader, lead by empathy, but that is just me. I believe that has always helped me create a culture of trust, respect, and psychological safety for my team. So I think I treat, and this I have learned from my previous leaders as well. It's not something that I came up with. I came across leaders in my career who did that to me as an individual contributor in the team. So I believe just giving your team that lending ear and doing that active listening is very, very important. And being vulnerable as a leader is also very important. I am not a jack of all trades. There are situations I won't have answers, and
Mhm.
I would have wrong answers sometimes. So being vulnerable has is also very, very important as a leader, is what I think.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Vulnerability is very important just to so they, you that allows for that empathy. So, as a leader and throughout your career as a minority leader, what has been your biggest challenge or opportunity where you had to dig in to get over? I know we have individuals in the community that may get that first role, and although we know that there are good managers out there, we also know that there are alternatives out there, and working for someone that I have plenty of those stories, working for someone that wasn't a good leader. So, what are the things that challenged you and kept you going when you were going through those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest challenge as a minority leader, I would say I faced or understood was the representation being limited in most cases. But then, and it felt like you're breaking new ground because you don't have a clear blueprint to follow. So I kind of turned that challenge as a motivation to succeed,
Mhm.
and like um, be resilient to thrive in those different environments. And I would say something very important that helped me was the ability to let go.
Oh, interesting.
Because sometimes you are in those situations which psychologically might pull you down, but then if you want to continue on your journey, the ability to let go, I think, really helped me focus on what I took up as a challenge that motivated me to grow and helped me propel further.
Interesting. How did you cultivate that ability to let go? That's
It
not
wasn't
something natural.
it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I had moments, uh, but I think that is what I based like introspected myself and felt could be something that is holding me back. And I believe the more I did, the more I got better at it. So it is, you have to start somewhere. It is not something which will be built in one day, the ability to let go. It's a gradual progression. And
Yeah.
the more you do it, the more you get better at it, is all I can say. But yes,
So, yeah,
you
go ahead.
I think not letting things hold you down is very important, because
Mhm.
as I see, even when you're working in any corporate environment, right? You have to manage different EQs and IQs, and especially in resilience domain, since we work so heavily cross-functionally, it's very important to let go. Otherwise, I mean, you will not be able to continue with your day-to-day work, I feel.
Yeah, and I think, there are folks out there that have challenges, right? And especially new professionals now. And we have our apprenticeship program as well, and we have individuals that are being trained to be cybersecurity professionals. So they get into that role opportunity, and they're not the most comfortable because I don't like the word imposter syndrome. I feel like individuals,
I hear
you
you.
have to fight hard to get there to begin with, especially minority individuals. And once you're there, you have proven that you deserve to be in the room.
Exactly.
Now, what you do with that is up to you. And I think there are individuals that struggle because they're like, oh, it's especially, yeah, and I deal with the younger professionals, 40, I call them the 42 and under crowd. I deal with them, the millennials and below. And their own personal resiliency, I call into question at times, because as confident, or as the belief that they have that they can be in them, do it themselves, whenever they come across a challenge, it seems to knock them for a loop, right? Cybersecurity, information security is not instantaneous. This is a profession. You're going to have to grow into. I don't care what they're telling you out there on social media or on YouTube. You have to be a continuous learner,
100%.
and and it's not going to happen instantaneously. So personal resilience comes into play here, especially with younger professionals. As a manager, how do you cultivate that personal resilience if somebody makes a mistake, or if someone's not, to get that motivation, to get them motivated to continue?
I think I would say, I think, like I said earlier, uh, being like treat, I would say I treat or recognize my team member as a whole person and not just a person who's there to work. I believe that. And I'll be very honest, this is something that I learned from my previous leader. And to me, that was very, 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 very inspiring as an individual, as a person reporting to my previous leader.
Mhm.
Like being like treating the team member as a whole person, like, and not just there to work, like understanding what are their needs, what are their requirements, what do they expect out of you. And like, it's a very small example which probably might not strike as important, but my previous manager, he used to start every meeting, the first 5 or 10 minutes he would just talk about how did your weekend go. And this was our weekly meeting. He would share his experience, how his weekend would go, and then he would ask all our team, other team people reporting to him, what did they do? It's a very small thing, not something that he did on purpose, but he treated us as people. He saw us as people who work with him versus just people who are there to deliver deliverables.
But what about those that are on the other side, right? Not the leader, but the one that is sitting there. Like I said, we're talking about junior level professionals that may not have the confidence to talk, or feel don't feel comfortable enough in their profession, to speak up or speak out. And these, because like I said,
I think it's
it's
just,
great when you have a great leader, but when you don't, yeah.
I would say it is just giving them those opportunities. And I have experience that with my teams in the past. Like sometimes I had to shield them from a few things, but then at some point I had to push them because there's only so much shielding I can do, right? At some point I have to push them to bring their A game on, to step up, to be able to talk to different audiences. So I think it as a leader, you have to find that right balance of how much can you shield your team member and how much should you push your team member, because ultimately you want them to grow in their career as well. And I can share, like recently with my team member, I'm part of this organization called VSIS, Women in Cybersecurity. And I just, based on the conversation we had in a team meeting, she just got so inspired and she went and joined the organization and started doing coursework. She got a certification for that. So it is just, like I said, like treating your team members as humans, as people, is very, very important. And it has always helped. I learned this from my leaders and it has helped me become a better leader as well.
Yeah, and I would say, for those that are out there that are, in a situation where they are either looking to get into the space, or finding it challenging to transition into the cybersecurity space. I get that all the time. Those that are, you know, not quite comfortable in their maybe in their first role, to develop that resiliency, I think you need to just accept the fact that you don't know everything, and but you can read. You guys
And
know this.
I think
Mary will
one more
say
thing
that.
I would like to add, what I have always encouraged my team about is it's okay to fail. There is no such thing that you cannot fail. I can fail as a leader. I am not perfect. I can make mistakes, but then I analyze if I fail. What is the root cause that I get to it so that I don't do it again, or I adapt and learn to better do it the next time. So go, and this is what I've observed sometimes in my team is like they're just scared to fail. I'm not saying you have to fail in everything, but it's okay once in a while. If you don't know anything, you can fail. And to prevent that, another thing that I encourage is ask questions. No question is a dumb question. Please ask questions. This is something I do personally, even till date. And in one of my interviews, I still remember one of the interviewers told me, he's like, "You're a curious George. You ask too many questions." But I like that. It's like, yeah, because I want to learn what I'm signing up for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will just add on that we as human beings don't learn anything without failing. We learn to walk by falling. So I don't know why we get to be adults and we have a fear of learning something new, or and I don't consider anything a failure. It's a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to grow. And if you're not challenging yourself, if you're so afraid to put yourself out there, then you're not growing. But I'm going to switch the conversation before I get on my soapbox here. So as it relates to your own personal journey, as you spoke to before, what would you consider to be the most useful tool in your arsenal when climbing the corporate ladder?
I think for me, something that was very important is being authentic and being true to my values. Like, and for me, empathy is very important. So I think a combination of all this with the mindset of I have the can do attitude and I'm willing to learn. I believe these are the things which have been powerful as tools to help me grow in my career. Again, I will go back to that. This coupled with resilience has helped me gain the trust, navigate challenges, and impact in a way that aligns with who I am and what I can bring to the table.
Mhm, mhm.
So I would say it is very, very important to be authentic and be there to learn, be there to ask questions to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's great. That's great advice. So what's next? What's next in your career?
That's hard. That's a hard question, but I guess continuing on my journey as a strategic leader and driving transformations to scale based on the opportunities that are presented, and influencing the enterprise-wide work that I'm doing right now in the future as opportunities present. And I love mentoring folks, so continuing with that journey as well.
Yeah, I love mentoring and doing all. I think that well, I mean, I think, and I challenge all of everyone to definitely have their 1, 5, 7 year plan. And have it, if it's not drafted, it's not in existence. So, that's where the question comes from. It's like, we always think about, you know, what do we want for ourselves at the end of our career, right? Some folks want to be want to they see themselves as CISO. Some folks think about a change. They want to do privacy, or some people want to go. And I mean, you guys are Adobe this product security. Mostly it's about the product, right? And so, and all of those things as we think about mapping out the career and to understand that it's just where you start may not be where you end up, but
100%.
understanding, we start
I mean,
somewhere.
my journey has been is the biggest example. I studied engineering, did finance and financial compliance, did MBA in finance, did information security, then resilience. In between, I also did privacy at City. So it's just whatever the opportunity presents, are you willing to take it up as the challenge? Is what I think is that right can do attitude that you bring along. And like, I am fine even now. I keep thinking if I can increase my skill set through certification in privacy, I wouldn't mind going back to that if I get an opportunity.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm an attorney, so I've done the privacy stuff too. So that's it's interesting the way the, the laws that are now coming to pass, but not with the United States doesn't have a privacy law. It doesn't have a overarching privacy law. We have, you know, different data breach statutes and things like that, but privacy is a baby to InfoSec, just like InfoSec was a baby to IT. And
Engineering.
yeah, yeah. And so it becomes a, you know, keeping abreast because the law always catches up later than anything else
I
because
think resilience itself, I can share, like EU has taken the lead in something called as Digital Operational Resilience Act, called DORA. We abbreviated as DORA. That, and usually EU takes the lead, right? They started with GDPR, it got adopted globally, other nations, states in US followed suit. Similarly, there are countries which are following suit with that. It will come with time, but then all this regulatory compliance is what you need to do with your job that you do on day-to-day basis, whether it's in operational resilience or in privacy. So it will keep evolving and keep changing. So just bringing that continuous learning mindset really helps.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, technology outpaces security, security outpaces the law. And so, because, you know, it takes something failing and somebody suing about it
Agree.
for it to change.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and so, because unfortunately, corporations are still not motivated by it's just the right thing to do.
Right.
They're motivated by how much if risk. It's a risk management issue. It becomes a okay. How much is it going to cost me to fix it? And if there's a problem, or if we know it's a problem, or we don't know it's a problem, or the problem came up, it's all risk management, and so the law itself tends to lag behind because we're trying to refashion tools. I mean, and then you look at AI. AI is taking off, and
Yep.
one way or another, I've joked with again, I'm a lawyer, so I had a friend of mine, oh, you can use chat gpt to help, you know, write a book. And I was like, so you're going to put all of your you're going to put all of your intellectual property in chat gpt for
Strategy.
chat gpt to
For the
steal it? Is
language
that what
learning
you?
model, yep.
So, I mean, again, people don't think about that. As a lawyer, I'm like, no, that's not what we're gonna do. We're not about
Agree.
to do that.
Agree.
But no, I mean, even with AI, how does that impact, or if it does at all impact your day to day?
I think it does to an extent where the risk landscape becomes even more complex and risky. I think it is still very preliminary because to say what would be the extent of it, but we can definitely see the risk landscape is changing with AI, and that will
Mhm.
impact um, from resilience, I would, and cyber resilience standpoint, like the attack vectors and the attack surface increases, and the frequency and the speed increases. Earlier, it used to be human doing it. Now you can automate it through a bot using AI.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
keeping abreast with that is challenging, but I'm sure with time, as we learn more, we will come in front of the challenge to be able to keep abreast with that. But I think this is how, in the current state, is a concern that it would impact more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, technology outpaces. We put stuff out there just because it's cool and not really understanding the impacts,
And I can,
how it's gonna.
I was reading an article the other day, like in the early 2000s, cyber breaches were unheard of. And now they're like 650% times more on a day-to-day basis. So you can just see the difference in 25 years. So with AI, I would say that would quadruple in impact.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's just the technology. Of course, I teach from the ground up, right? I teach security to the apprentices from the ground up, and we start talking about the Morris worm, and that was 1988, right? So the it keeps getting, the more you start connecting machines, the more risk associated with it. And you know, back in my day, look at this, you know, I'm 30 years in this space. So you know, when I was at the FBI, denial of service attacks cases, and all those other things that we were doing that are not as prevalent anymore, but still the basics are still the same. And so it's just intriguing. We keep building technology, but we're still not doing the basics right, which is why they create the same vulnerabilities just in a different environment.
Yes. And if we start following quantum computing, which is the next big thing after AI matures and is outpace, that's something that's gonna outpace everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
right now it's in the very preliminary stages of it. Nobody understands the impact or the depth of it, but it is going to have a huge impact.
And the funny thing about it is, it's all zeros and ones. It's all math.
It is the same what we studied in engineering school. I still remember microprocessors. Everything goes back to that. The 0 and 1. That was not my favorite subject, just FYI.
No, no, and I am, you know, a network engineer. You know, I mathematics and all those things. I'm like, but this is still just math. This is still just math on steroids. At certain, I mean, there's still rules, right? And there's still, you know, rules that have to be applied, programs that have to be developed to actually tell the computer what to do.
Agreed, 100%. It is still, the basics haven't changed. I think the basics
Right.
are still the same.
Right. And I think we lose sight of that when we start to think about all of the like AI. You know, I, as a lawyer, I'm fascinated by how many lawyers are getting in trouble because they're using fake citations in their briefs. I'm like, who does that? But I mean, it becomes a, you know, you're using this tool, and it's fine to use the tool, but then understand. You know, I think I read something today at education, an academic paper or something that was basically saying students that use AI are actually losing brain cells. They're losing their
Are,
ability to
yes.
think,
And
right? And it's like, so now we're turning
like,
ourselves into a bunch of zombies, maybe.
yeah, I mean, even before AI, the impact, like, we tend to write, at least growing up, I used to write notes. I don't see that happening. Even before AI, that had stopped happening. I can share mine. I always have a notebook on my desk and I cannot go without it. But even before the advent of AI, this was going away in the current generations. And
Right,
with the
right.
advent of AI, it's completely going to go away.
Well, I mean, even when you stop writing cursive, we stop, you know, remembering phone numbers.
That's
Remember,
such a good
again,
example.
there are certain things that technology is actually making us not as smart as we were. Um, you know, it's making it too easy for us not to know and to fake. I mean, even
Yeah.
with, you know, some of
Remembering
the job.
telephone numbers is such a good example. There was a time where you used to remember telephone numbers, not anymore.
Mhm. Yep. I know my mom's, I know my
Yes,
best
you will know
friends.
your immediate family, probably 2 or 3. That is it.
Yeah, those are, you know, when they took cursive out of schools. I remember when they took cursive, the writing out of our school system. And I'm just thinking, you guys, and even with, you know, because I taught at the University of Cincinnati for about a decade, and I saw just the change, even you know, over that course of that 10 years, of the type of student that I was getting, and the lack of what you talked about before, which is what you need in this profession: continuous learning, the ability to actually do research and actually write a paper. It was
God. And
um,
it is, and it's not a paper that you only have to write in the academic world. I can share an experience. To present a project or an initiative that you want to drive, you have to still write papers to bring the idea to your leadership. Yes, you can build a deck to present the idea, but to give a more deep dive, you still have to write vision documents. It doesn't just end at school.
no, it doesn't. Even, Miss Mary, I want to be a pen tester. You do know you got to write a pen testing report, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Like,
you still, you
we
still
still
have to.
write papers. Like, I remember when I started at Adobe, my CISO had asked me to write a paper of how he thinks my vision is to mature the program at Adobe. Like, I built the whole framework for our Adobe Enterprise Resilience. Like, I had to write a whole paper to present that thought, to be able to say, I want to build a framework. That was the second step. The first step was, what is my vision?
Mhm.
And even for interviewing at roles, I was given a task to, like, my interview was very unique. They had asked me, in certain organizations, just come up with an idea of how will you mature an existing program within an organization, and that is your interview. Present us your thought process. So I would say it doesn't end at school. It's going to carry throughout your corporate journey as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when my first corporate job out of the FBI was working for GE Capital, and we had an incident, and I was the director of incident response at the time. I had to write an incident response report, which
Yeah.
was something that they never did.
I
Never
mean,
did. They lived it in PowerPoint, and now somebody had to put to paper and create and have artifacts of actually how the breach happened and what steps were taken and when, and
that is
it was
exactly
completely.
what we do as business continuity also, because when we coordinate in case of an incident, that is our responsibility to make sure everything is correctly documented, articulated and circulated among different stakeholders, so that everybody is abreast at what's going on.
Yeah. So listen, still have to write. Just saying out there. If you, I don't see any questions. Let's see. I am looking out on the. There's no question. There's no questions inside. So I mean, we only have. Wow, we only have 10 minutes left. I can't believe that. So tell me, like, okay, so finance, as you now progressed and as you change these career as you switched and did all this privacy and all these other different things, um what was the motivating factor? Was it the opportunity was presented and you just rose your hand, or was it, something that you pursued, or was it a combination of both? How did that happen? Did you stretch goals? Did somebody say, oh, I want you to do this, and you went to do it?
I would say there was stretch goals, and then there was also that willingness to learn, a combination of both. My resilience foray was was a stretch assignment, which turned into a career from my CISO. Uh, but I mean, he had opened that opportunity to the whole team. It was up to the team members to raise their hands, right? I rose my hand and
Uh-huh.
I said, I will do it. I want to learn more. Um, and I, even till date, like, I mean, one, the nature of the role that I'm in, I need to learn about different aspects within an organization. Two, I just love to learn about different things to be able to grow my learning. And I think that really helps me. And that can do attitude. I feel when people are interviewing you or hiring you, more than your technical skills, what people look at, or I look at as a hiring manager, is your can do attitude. If I can train you on anything I want, but are you willing to? Do you have that attitude to do it? Do you have the attitude to learn, to grow? I think that is very, very important to bring. And in my career, I would say like I said, it was a combination of giving the opportunity, asking for the stretch opportunity, and then thinking that I want to grow in my career. I looked out and seeked out more opportunities.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
in my journey, I feel my mentors have played a very big role.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
definitely not forget to attribute my success in my journey to my mentors.
Yeah,
I mean, I
absolutely.
can even share like when I was building that whole program, at some point I was like, I don't know what should I do. Where should I start? I just called my mentors and I was like, please give me some thoughts, give me some ideas. You guys have way more experience than I do. So please build those relationships, network. It is, people are there to help you if you have questions and if you need ideas. And I believe with the advent of social media, it's become even more easier. So
Mhm.
please use those platforms.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice. And I honestly don't have any questions. I'll let you ask me a question. Do you have a question for me? Haha, we'll turn it on.
Absolutely. So I am curious. Um, I know I just figured out yesterday night that we both are located in Dallas, Fort Worth. So I'm curious if I want to be more involved and engaged in minorities in cybersecurity. Is there a local chapter that I can be a part of and contribute?
Well, we're not a chapter type of organization. We don't have chapters. We are based here in Dallas. We have our once a year conference, which was March of this year. We are a leadership development organization. So the way you would give back to minorities in cybersecurity through a mentorship, we have a mentorship
Absolutely.
program. And if you want us to sign you up, Ralph, I know you're out there. Put her down as a potential a mentor. We are taking those as well. So a lot of our programs are virtual. And since the pandemic, so we have leadership development courses that we run. We have our apprenticeship program and things like that. But we're not a traditional membership type of organization where we have chapter meetings and things like that. We're focused on developing.
Yep. So yeah, please sign me up for your mentorship program. I'm happy to give back.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And definitely we'll keep you on the hot seat potentially since for 2026 when we have our conference in March of 2026 to get you out there as a speaker as well. We have folks
Love to.
out there that are absolutely. So, and I would thank you so much, Anshu, for joining us tonight. Thank you guys for out there on the. I see you out there on the YouTube channel, and for those that are watching this at a later date, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your time and effort, and I wish you a great rest of the summer in this hot Dallas heat.
Yes. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really grateful.